What is going on, Diablo 2 fans? Not Chinmay here, and in today's video we're going to be breaking down the character, the man, the myth, the Barbarian in this post mini playthrough. What is a post mini playthrough, you ask? Well, it is exactly what the title suggests. I take my beloved mini playthrough characters, give them nice gear from my holy grail shared stash, and put them on duty to do magic find and uber runs and see how they shape up. Today we're going to be looking at the two faces of the Barbarian, starting with the uber running Frenzy Barbarian. Now, I generally like to start off with the magic finding guy and then go to the uber killer next, but I think this guy deserves the opening show spotlight because I have some rather interesting gear on him that people will appreciate. When I say gear, what I really am alluding to is just one piece of gear, the icon of a sword known as the Grandfather. This is going to be my primary weapon of choice, and yes, you can stop typing the comment that you're typing right now. I know that grief is better. I know that it is better because of the fast base and its inherently superior damage dealing capabilities, but the Grandfather is no slouch in the latter. 230% enhanced damage, which can range from 150 to 250, so it's a pretty good roll with that. And then the very important stat of max damage based on character level. If you caught my recent Frenzy Barbarian mini playthrough, you would know that I love that stat on the head striker because of how it allowed the weapon to scale with the difficulty and the increasing level of my character. This has quite the same effect. Now sure, it won't reach the heights of the mighty beasts like Breath of the Dying and the aforementioned Grief, but it does get up there and really rewards you for leveling up your character as time goes on. Along with offensive stats, this gives some really nice defensive stats as well, including 80 to life and 20 to all attributes, which, I mean, that life boost is not Trump change, and definitely comes in handy while fighting some of the hardest monsters in the game. Then obviously you have the undeniable cool factor. This weapon is just plain cool because it comes from a different era and is pretty much an icon today. Everyone wanted to find it when they played this game as a kid, and getting to actually use it to smack some ubers in the head is amazing. That's just how I feel about these super rare unique items. I like to actually take them out to the field and use them like they were meant to be, instead of just collecting them in my holy grail stash and then just letting them collect dust. That to me is an absolute waste. The reason that most people end up putting this in their stash and never using them is because this weapon is just inherently slow. There are no two ways about that. The Colossus Blade is not the fastest base by any stretch of the imagination, and thus I had to use said imagination to make this weapon work. That is, by improvising my gear. Now this starts with the Shale rune, which is a very simple addition as it gives me 20% increased attack speed to boot on the weapon itself. My partner weapon doesn't even have that increased attack speed though. That's because it is a Death Colossus Blade in my offhand. The reason it gets away without that is because Frenzy only needs increased attack speed on the primary weapon, and it does its calculations based off that. So when we get that out of the way, this rune word seems way more appealing. It actually ends up doing more damage than my Grandfather at my current character level of 83. But like I mentioned before, that changes when I level up. That raw physical damage is obviously added by the ethereal modifier that I can get on this Colossus Blade, since the rune word is always indestructible. Other than that raw physical damage, this weapon also has a massive 50% chance of crushing blow, which is crucial since the Grandfather has none at all, and it is going to be very handy while fighting monsters with huge amounts of HP. For its scaling damage, this thing has deadly strike based on character level, which at the moment gives me a 41% chance of doing double damage with this weapon. And you can kinda see how this thing is the Adonis Johnson to the grandfather's Rocky Balboa. It is younger, deadlier, and in way better shape, especially in this meta, and coincidentally makes a great pair with the old icon to bring out its true potential. Now with these two very slow weapons in hand, I needed attack speed on my gear to stand any chance of hitting good IAS breakpoints. So when it came to armor choice, I looked no further than Treachery. I still firmly believe that this armor is criminally underrated. Yes, I know every Uber character uses this as a pre-buff armor, but it is capable of so much more than that. That 45% increased attack speed is unmatched by any other option, and when you combine that with the chance to cast Fade and faster hit recovery for defensive stats, I think this could be a very strong candidate for a full-time Uber character armor, obviously being a crucial piece of the puzzle for me in this case, allowing me to use the weapons that I want. Going on from the armor to another underrated favorite of mine, Kira's Guardian. Many people like to take the offensive approach of Guillaume's face with melee Uber characters, but Kira's in my case serves its purpose very well. It provides me with three crucial stats. One is the massive 69 to all resistance. Yes, I know that Fate from Treachery will increase that by 60 as well, but the 69 from this helmet is crucial to form the base, as no other piece of my armor gives me any resistances. Number 2, I also socketed this Kira's with a 15% increased attack speed jewel, which gives me more of that attack speed that I need, and also comes with 30% lightning res, which you can never have too much of, especially when you expect to face Uber Mephisto in your lifetime. Finally, at number 3, it gives me Cannot Be Frozen. Now that is generally something that a lot of other Uber characters take care with the Ravenfrost, but with this here being taken care of by my helmet, I was free to use 2 angelic halos in my ring slots, obviously combined by the angelic wings as my amulet. Attack rating while fighting the Ubers is going to be vital because death is going to be around every corner, and my ability to hit will literally dictate on whether I'm able to leech back from life tap or not, and whether I will survive long enough to land another attack. Speaking of life tap, I have the red gloves that hate me the most, Dracule's Grasp. These have a god-awful roll because they hate me, took me absolutely ages to find because they hate me, and take forever to cast life tap for me because they... yeah, you get the idea. For that reason, I will be also using a manual source of life tap as well, but I can't deny the usefulness of having an automatic proc from these, especially mid-fight for the fights that will go a long time, as the recast will ensure my survival during it. Then we have 2 iconic pieces of melee gear which you probably would have already recognized without me mousing over them. First is Verdungo's Hearty Coil. Now this was in close contention with Nose Coil to be my belt of choice for this guy. In the end though, I didn't really end up needing the attack speed, and the lifesteal provided by Nosferatu's is pretty negligible compared to life tap, so I went with the massive boost of 39 vitality, which is one off of perfect by the way, combined with 15% damage reduction offered by good old Dungos. I love the way it looks, I love the way it functions, it is a very good defensive belt for this guy. Finally, we have Goblin Toes. Now since I am not using Guillaume's face on this guy and opting for a more defensive Kira's setup, also since my primary weapon of choice being the grandfather has no crushing blow on it whatsoever, I had to go with these over the Go Riders because yes, the 30% faster run walk, additional deadly strike, and especially the open wounds would have been nice. I think that the additional 10% crushing blow will be nicer from these guys. Especially considering that the base damage of my weapons is pretty good anyways, so open wounds might not matter that much, whereas crushing blow will be crucial to bring down those high HP monsters, and that's why my final decision was to go with Goblin Toes over the Go Riders. Now in terms of charms, I have small charms with resistances on them to just give those a little bump over the max limit, as you can see from my stats. For grand charms, I have attack rating, which, as I mentioned, is crucial. So having that stat sit at 20k is a very pleasant sight for me. Now my life pre-BO is 1629, which goes up above 2600 with BO. Now when I will BO, I will be using my switch for that, which are right now 2 Heart of the Oaks, which give me +6 to skills, which is very nice for pre-buffing. I will be swapping those out for some alternative options after the pre-buff, and those options are first a teleport staff, which will really help me while looking for the 3 lesser Ubers, that being Lilith, Duriel and Iswell. I don't really need Enigma on this guy, I feel. I can run fast with frenzy boosts and just use this to jump walls and other obstacles whenever I'll need to. I also have a life tap wand, which, like I mentioned, I will be using as a manual source to start the fight with life tap and then let Drax hopefully take over. For the final piece of gear, I have a Chains of Honor in my stash. This is a failsafe pretty much. If things are going exceptionally wrong against someone like Mephisto, I'll have this as a backup to take him on, but I doubt that things will go that wrong given the state of my gear at the moment. As for my skills, I have maxed out the usual suspect of Frenzy for the attack speed, attack rating, and damage boosts. I also have maxed Sword Mastery for similar reasons, including a nice addition of 31% critical chance. I also have a few hard points into natural resistance. This I pretty much put in points until its boosts started falling off a cliff due to diminishing returns. Now in War Cries, things are a bit interesting. Now as you can see, I have maxed out Taunt, and the reason for that is that it is a direct synergy to Frenzy. Now I know that we're taught as kids that plus skills don't matter for melee characters, but the damage difference before versus after maxing the skill was like 700 on the max side. So it felt like it was worth it for me. Maybe I'm wrong though. That's because by maxing the skill I only had 12 points that I had to distribute between battle orders and Howl. Now extra points in battle orders is nice obviously, since it reduces the chance of awkward spots in between battles where I could be left in a pickle because my boosts ran out while I was at low HP in the middle of a fight. At the same time, extra points into Howl increases my ability to distract random other mobs, and especially now that minions in Uber Tristram being a thing in Plugy, I did not want to skimp out on this skill neither. So you can see how much skills matter for this guy. Something like a Barb Torch will be very helpful for him actually, and let's try and see if we can get him one of those. Before that, let's quickly look at the mercenary before we leave town, because I have a feeling that he would play a crucial role in the upcoming battles. Now as you can tell, this is a standard Infinity mercenary with the 3 usual gear suspects of Infinity, Fortitude and Andariel's Visage. Now the reasoning behind this, and why some people may be finding this choice baffling, is that not only does Conviction Aura on Infinity reduce the enemy's resistances, making it obviously useful for elemental damage dealing casters, but it also reduces enemies' defense, much like the skill of Battle Cry. Now this is going to be a nice passive buff to my attack rating while my mercenary stays alive. This weapon also has a substantial stat of 40% crushing blow, which can come in very handy, especially if me and my mercenary can combo and go ham on the Ubers. To make him survive that long, and I guess to help his damage as well, we have Fortitude with 300% enhanced damage, 30 to all resistances, and a massive boost to his defense. You can see how this mercenary is very offensive based, and that continues in the helmet choice of Endorials, giving him 20% increased attack speed and 10% life stolen on hit. Now you could make an argument for a more defensive based approach on this guy with something like an Obedience for the weapon to give him more resistances and faster hit recovery, and a Vampire Gaze to go alongside with it. However, with this guy, especially while writing the script and looking at things in retrospect, I can firmly say that offense is your best form of defense. Those Ubers throw out crazy damage numbers per second, and the crazy leech from life tap is pretty much the only way to absorb them. Therefore, this more offensive based approach will actually help his survivability more, and the support aura is going to come clutch for my Barbarian as well. With that said, let's get into some Uber killing action. Now one of the great things about having Treachery as my primary armor is that I don't have to wait around for a pre-buff. I can pretty much guarantee to get that on the way to one of the Ubers, just based on the hits I'll take on the way. So with that confidence and a pre-buff with the 2 Heart of the Oaks, I went in boldly into the Matron's Den. Many people like to leave this place for last, and the reason for that is this lady, everyone's secret waifu, Lilith. Now I had a bit of a jump scare moment here. I wasn't really prepared with my life tap switch as I ran into her, and thus I had to escape into town to recuperate and then go back in. I was hoping to show you the effectiveness of my mercenary in this fight, but yeah, there goes that. To be fair, no amount of defensive gear was going to save him there. My Barbarian though is faring way better. Having that life tap on switch gives me a great way to manually control life tap, and having that from the get-go is proving really handy here, as I was able to trade blows with Endorial, albeit still being at the edge of my seat. You can see, hear and feel with every whiff of the swords how my HP comes dangerously close to 0, and that was what I was talking about. This guy's offense is his defense. Thankfully I had 20,000 attack rating in this fight, and with that high of a chance, excellent damage from my weapons and plenty of crushing blow explosions in the fight, I was able to take Lilith down and retrieve the Diablo horn, but barely. Had I missed a few shots in an unlucky flurry, it would have been my Barb laying on the ground instead. In a stark contrast, we have the Iswell fight. Now even though in this fight I was surrounded by Izzy's minions, which were these pit lords, and I had to howl them mid-fight, this never came close to even killing me like Lilith did. I wonder what was different. Surely there is something that would have allowed me to leech more from life tap in this one fight, and which is why I survived better, right? Okay, yeah, Iswell also doesn't hit as hard as the big bad poison lady, so I guess there is that as well, but you can't tell me that Conviction didn't have a sizable impact on this fight compared to the last one, since I was able to hit Izzy a lot more comfortably. Finally, we have the Duriel fight to put the nail in the coffin. Now fighting him can be awkward because, like in my case, you can have the big blue race car surrounded by mosquitoes which are annoyingly physical immune. Therefore I dragged him all the way near to the waypoint, howling on my way to clear the area. Then finally, when I had a clear shot, I grit my teeth and began my attack. Due to Duriel's Holy Freeze, my Barbarian does attack slower, but due to all the increased attack speed I have on him, it isn't painfully slow. It honestly was completely manageable. If anything, the only bottleneck here seemed to be my chance to hit Duriel. There we go. Much better. Conviction aura for the win, boys. Well, let's not pop the champagne just yet. The hardest part is yet to come. Now, my smiter pretty much steamrolled through the big three in my last post-mini playthrough, but this time I had to contend with minions. Yup. Oh, the glorious minions. What a great idea this was to install this mod. Intentionally. Okay, so I started this with Mephisto, and let's just say things did not go well to begin with. As you can see, Mephisto was right next to the portal for me, and his army of minions rose to a level of unbearable real fast. Now that's really bad because Mephisto is already notorious for being horrendous to deal with because of his conviction aura and horribly strong elemental attacks. He is weak HP wise though, and thus I was able to land some nice offense on him. It's just when you're going up against someone that can one-shot you, just like that, things are always going to be pretty tough. The journey to get my body back, recuperate, and then fight him again was a long and painful one, so I thought I'd show you a montage of my Barb dying like 5 million times while we talk about how the smiter fared so much better. Well, for one, he had 100% accuracy. The ability to hit fast and leech 100% of the time on every attack is invaluable when your life pool can empty that fast, and although a 20k attack rating is nice, it is still no smite. Second, the minions might be the key here. Well, the minions aren't the only key. I was able to take them on pretty comfortably one-on-one, as you can see here. It's just when Mephisto and them combo together, that's when you start to have a bad time. This was my second flurry that I mustered against him, and this time notice how there were no minions directly next to me, which is why I was faring much better. Don't get me wrong, I was still getting my ass handed to me by the plethora of elemental damage coming from each direction, and eventually, just when my Barbarian was about to land the finishing blow on Uncle Mephisto, they got the better of me. Well, I guess we have to go through this again. That's fun. Finally, it wasn't that hard to get in there in a frenzy, pun very much intended, to finish off Mephisto's 2 HP or whatever was left from our other encounters. With that done, really the rest of the 2 Ubers were easy street. Don't get me wrong, Diablo can get very annoying, overpowering you with minions like I showed you earlier, but here, as you can see, while I was taking care of the big black lizard, the minions were distracted by my mercenary. Now for his support, I was throwing a few life tap curses his way to keep him healthy, and this actually worked really well. The mercenary was able to take care of all the minions while I cleaned up on Diablo. Now after he had died, I did have to clean up the mess of his minions that Diablo had created, but other than that, this fight was honestly quite painless. Finally, we had Bale. Now being the final boss, he lives up to it by being the most annoying to kill. His minions are all physical immune, so howling them away is the only option that I have. Also, one of those types of minions are ghosts, which mana burn you instantly, and combine that with Bale's notorious mana sap attack as well, having mana pots in your belt inventory are more important than ever. Also, can I just point out, This fight went a good 5 minutes. Not once in that duration did life tap ever proc from the red gloves that hate me. I was not joking before. Whoever this Dracule guy is, I must have done horrible things to him in another life because his gloves are taking it out on me, and I had to use manual life tap throughout this fight, which almost led to a sticky situation. First for my Barbarian and then for my Mercenary. With life tap though, this fight is not tough. It is long. Bale does have the most amount of HP, which makes sense as well, given that he's supposed to be Mr. Lord of Destruction, the final boss. It also is fitting then that finally when we killed him and got to the end of this crazy journey, we got the reward we've been waiting for since the start, a unique large charm. Oh, and the standard of heroes thing. Yeah, that's cute as well. But what we're here for is the large charm. Last time with the Paladin, I got a Paladin torch with high stats. Will this be able to follow suit? The answer is a resounding no. 1412 Amazon. Yeah, that ain't it, Chief. Now, it is still nice since I will eventually make a Zon, and having this crappy Zon torch will still be better than having no torch at all, but yeah, I can't hide it, I am a wee bit disappointed. Therefore, just to make up for this, and to get that Barb torch for our upcoming Magic Find character, I think I'm going to do 10 Uber runs with 10 different weapon sets split between the Smiter and Frenzy Barb, and that you can expect to be my next video. For now though, let's get to magic finding. Now, I don't blame you for being exhausted from that Uber journey, so I've decided to just breeze through this guy, which is the Berserk Barbarian. Now, this was originally my Whirlwind Barb, who I have since respec'd to a Berserk Barbarian. Often with this guy you have the name of the area attached to his build name, like the Berserker or the Pindle Zerker. If you know me though, you know that I don't go for single magic find targets like that. Instead, I like to combine a couple of locations together and do a mass magic finding haul, and that is exactly what I plan to do with this guy as well. Now, with that responsibility, he needs a lot of power, and that comes from his gear, which, to be completely honest, is mostly standard fare. Also, assuming that you made it this far into this video, I would suppose that you would have seen these standard items being used a fair few times before, so I will just breeze through them right now. The weapon is Grief because high damage and high attack speed, as you may expect. The armor is Enigma because teleport and because magic find, as you may expect. In terms of alternative, I think it would be very tedious to do a budget version of this without Enigma, because just the ability to readjust and position yourself while using Berserk is quite crucial. To help with that teleporting, I also have 2 wizard spikes on switch. The Barbarian has the same exact FCR breakpoints as the Sorceress, so with these, all I need is 5% more FCR to reach 105, which is given handily to me by my amulet. Now this is a caster amulet with 2 to Barbarian skills, 9 FCR, and some resistances. It's not really anything amazing. I mean, if you don't want to craft something like this or level up your character to level god flippin' 89 just so you can wear an amulet, you know, you could just use something a lot simpler like a rare amulet with 10% FCR and some magic find. It will honestly do you just as well. The offhand weapon is a 6-isted phase blade, as you may expect as well. Berserk only swings the primary weapon, so having no damage on this secondary weapon slot is absolutely fine. Then we have some more usual suspects like 50% MF perfect war travs, which are very nice. 40% MF perfect chance guards, which are very nice, and 2 perfect 30% MF Nagels, which are also both quite nice indeed. Then we have the belt for the cannot be frozen Triangle's Girth. Now this we use instead of the beloved Ravenfrost because Ravenfrost adds cold damage which freezes enemies. Those frozen enemies when killed could shatter and drop no corpse, which means that you can't use find item on them, and item find is one of the main reasons that this guy even exists. I'll explain later. Then we have a few more quirky choices. For my helmet, I'm using a non-ugly, non-green, and very much effective Immortal King's Will. This serves a few purposes. Number one, it gives me 40% magic find to boot, which is pretty nice and almost equivalent to what Shaco offers as well. It then takes over Shaco with point number two, the fact that it has 2 sockets. This allows me to use one of those sockets for a perfect topaz to bump the MF up to 64%, and it also gives me an additional socket which I've used in this case to put in a 15% increased attack speed and 79 to attack rating jewel. The IAS is necessary to reach the max frame Berserk breakpoint with grief, and the attack rating is just nice since this is, as far as I know, one of the only viable melee MF character. The thing that makes him viable are the skills. First is the obvious candidate of max Berserk since it is a Berserk Barbarian. This gives a whopping 720% magic boost to your weapon, along with 460% attack rating boost with the penalty of dropping your defense down to 0 on every hit. Now with that stat, even though he has high HP, this guy is not necessarily tanky by any means. If anything, he's thick, but also, and I believe the politically correct term is squishy. So you gotta be careful, especially if you're running around berserking with amplified damage on you. For the rest of the skills, I have maxed Sword Mastery for the obvious damage, attack rating, and critical chance boosts. Then I have what you may think at first as a fair few points into natural resistance. But if I pull up my stats here, you can see that they're really not that much. I honestly just wanted to get this guy out of the negative because yes, you won't really be needing resistances since you will be fighting one monster at a time and mostly in the pits, but still, I think I would feel a lot more comfortable with 3 lightning res on my stats instead of negative 50. Other opinions are available. Then we get to the good part, the war cries. Now, maxing Howl on this guy is a no-brainer. Not only is it a super helpful skill, since like I mentioned before, your objective is to single out bosses and champions, and this skill helps you eliminate all the clutter around you. It also helps that Howl is also a synergy for Berserk, so putting points into this also ends up boosting your damage as well. For the pre-buff war cries, I have put 1-1-1 in each shout, battle orders, and battle command. Again, if you value life over resistances, you can change around the points I spent into natural resistance for more points into battle orders, but this is the way that I've decided to go. Finally, I have maxed find item. Now you heard me sing high praises of this skill before and I wasn't kidding. This skill is one of the major reasons why this character could be the single best magic finding character out of all of them. The reason being is that this basically acts as a double kill. That is where when you kill a monster, you get his drops, then you use find item on his corpse and have a 54% chance to get another set of drops. To visualize how bonkers that is, imagine doing a pit run where you kill like 7 boss packs and all of them give you an extra drop using find item. That just means you effectively killed 14 bosses. or you effectively just did 2 pit runs, or you just did 1 pit run in half the time. The gains are insane, especially with magic find as high as this guy, which is sitting at 2% shy of the 700 mark, which is really nice. A major contributor to that are my charms. Now, they're not perfect. I do have 3 columns of non 7% magic find charms. There are some 6s and 5s in there, but they're good enough honestly, and at this high of a magic find, you just gotta be happy with whatever you end up having. Finally, we have the mercenary. Now, he's not standard for once, although he is wielding an insight, which by far is the best option because it completely eliminates the need to use mana potions, except against mana burn monsters, of course. For his armor, in a sexy ethereal Archon plate, he has treachery. Boy, this armor is getting all the love in this video, isn't it? But I chose this over Fortitude because Fort has chilling armor when struck, which could obviously end up freezing enemies and shattering their corpse, which we absolutely do not want. You could go full cheesy and put a Welt on your mercenary so that when he gets the final kill, you get the benefit of 800% magic find. I do think though that Treachery's defensive prowess will outrank the over-the-topness of that option though. Finally, to top it all off is Endariel's Visage with lifesteal as its main contribution, since he will get a fair amount of attack speed from Treachery as well. Alright then, I think that mostly covers everything, so I guess it's time to show you some gameplay with this lad. Now, like I mentioned before, I will be running multiple areas with him, and one standard run for me is going to start off in the pits. Now you can see the plan of action with this guy is very simple. Enter, howl, locate, grief. Howl is a great skill for this guy because it lets you isolate the champions and boss packs so you can take them down and then use find item on them. Now here you'll see that I ran into a cursed archer pack, which are some of the worst monsters in the game, but I fared well against them since I was really close to the boss, and although I did end up getting cursed, I was able to kill her quickly and then peace out. That curse will come to bite me though, since as you can see, when I fight these champion ladies, that's where this guy being a bit squishy comes into play. Now, it's not terrible. It honestly was way worse when I was doing a few runs with my level 83 Barbarian, but now with this guy at level 89, this Barb does seem to take these attacks a lot better. The whole affair does take a little bit of getting used to since you're doing a lot of things very quickly, but as you may have picked up there, I did do a few runs with him earlier to get myself familiarized. Which is why I know that once I go into town, I have to set the players on 7 because I will be doing an LK run next. This is genuine advice, boys. Whatever area you plan to run on whatever character, do an LK run at the end. It is criminal that so few people actually do that. It only takes like 30 seconds and the rewards can be massive. Unless you're like one of those people who are like, you know what, one thing that my holy grail stash doesn't need is high runes. Yeah, in that case I guess you can skip Lower Kurist. But for all the other normal people, doing LK runs like this is going to pay out in the long run. Speaking of, after trying our luck at the Diablo 2 version of slots, we're going to the portal of Pindle, set the players back on 1, which is something that I've forgotten an embarrassing number of times in the past, and then do a nice and simple Pindle run on players 1. And that's pretty much that. Sorry if you were expecting me to do like 9 areas with this guy as well, but I have a day job now, and I don't really plan on getting fired in the first month, so 3000 runs is all that I'm going to do with this guy. That's still a fair few and will probably take me a couple of months to make, which is why I want to do the Uber runs first. That, and also to get this guy a shiny Barbarian torch. Okay, I'm rambling now. Let's end the video. Hope you find this content riveting. Yours truly, with love.